All right, let's answer your question and give you some good news.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say that.
I'm on her side, and I don't know exactly what her side is.
I think you're totally spot on with that.
I sound inept just to help you out.
It's been a rough week, thanks to your advice.
Are you a regular listener to this program?
As much as I can be.
There's your problem.
I would not ever disagree with you because you're so smart. You have a lot of answers to a lot of things.
You don't want to listen to me on the radio.
So what do I do?
I can't give you any direction.
Thank you for empowering me. I needed that.
I'm losing you, buddy. I don't know what you're trying to say.
Well, do you know somebody who does?
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Okay, I'm just looking through my book here to find out. Let's see what I get for a monologue. People say, you do show prep? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see, about a minute before the show starts, I think, okay, what do I want to do as a monologue? Let's do this one. A parent. Oh, I better say what this show's about, unless you call in. This is Look Back Friday, which means we already have the calls up there that we're going to review. We'll play the call in an edited version. Usually the edit takes me out of there with my initial persiflage with the caller. And then I want to talk about either the topic that the caller brings up. Like we have a call here that her sister killed herself, and she feels terrible because she missed the signs. So I want to talk about that. Suicide signs, the idea that they always will leave a note or something like that. It's not true, not true. So we'll comment a little bit more about that. We have another one who, let's see, getting married outside the church. What do you do on that? We've talked about that in this program. It's a very, very, very common thing as more and more young people leave the church and they decide they can get married however and wherever and whenever they want, or not get married at all. Just move in. So we'll talk about that. However, opening monologue. There's a lot of stuff that you're just not prepared for after you get your degree, whether it's a master's or a PhD. It's stuff that you only realize, the themes that you only see when you've been at it a while. It's not something that naturally comes up during your education. People will say, given what you know now about your profession, about therapy, about assessment, etc., the stuff of psychology, what percentage of it would you say that you gathered getting that PhD? The PhD is 9 years of education. I would say 10%. You went through 9 years of college? So you could say, as a psychologist, a therapist, 10%? I think most of the people that I would talk to who have advanced degrees would say that. Well, where'd you get the other 90%? Experience, self-education. I read a lot. I have maybe 10 or 15 periodicals that come in every month that I pretty much read cover to cover. I listen to an awful lot of educational podcasts, some great, great stuff on these podcasts. And, of course, I have to keep up continuing education. So there's an enormous amount of self-education that happens. If you want to do it, I mean, I'm torn. My education is typically divided into two segments. One is the faith, and trying to understand the faith and the reasoning behind the faith and the logic behind the faith. All of that. I want to know more about our faith. I want to know more about the Bible. I want to know more about theology. I want to learn that stuff. So I'd say maybe 50%, maybe even more than that, maybe more than 50%. But the other is psychology in general. and especially as it intersects with our culture. Here's a theme that I was ill-prepared for. Matter of fact, I was ignorant of it. I call it the shell-shocked second child syndrome. You've got to make names up for stuff, you know. As far as I know, nobody's used that name. Parent will come into my office, and they'll describe frustration, troubles, feeling at wit's end, so to speak, with a particular child, whether the child is 5, 10, 15. Routinely, I will ask, is there an older child or older children? A high percentage of the time, and I don't have numbers on this, I would say at least 50% of the time, they'll say something akin to, yes, there is, and nothing at all to raise like this child. Our first child was much more self-driven, self-motivated, discipline-wise. We didn't have to really discipline all that much because he or she. I hate to do that. Can't I just say he? And you know it could be a girl too. Because he accepted discipline so much better. He didn't push the limits like this one does. And I'll say, so you think your first child was kind of normal, and this one's strong-willed or a handful or really not normal to raise? And almost always they'll say yes. And I'll say, and I'll throw on my curve because they're paying for this. I don't think your first child was normal. I think your first child was a mulligan round, a freebie from God. The first child shaped the way you parented. You thought this was parenting, that you didn't have to discipline very much. You could usually explain the reasons for your conditions or your prohibitions or your requests. If you just explain yourself, the child would, oh, okay, that makes sense, Mom, thanks. That is not typical childhood. Typical childhood is a push. Let's see what they can get away with. Not because they're bad human beings, because they're kids. Now, granted, if you have good discipline, you get less and less of that pushing, and your explanations will work better when you have good discipline, when you have authority. That's true. But if you don't, if this child has thrown you for a loop, if this child is the one where you're thinking, all the other stuff that we did with the first one or the first two worked so well, why is it not working with this one? Well, because it's a different kid. Wired different. Doesn't mean he's necessarily problematic. It just means in comparison to the previous child or two, or even three. I've had a lot of people say, we got 4 kids, and this last one is distinctly different from the other 3. Well, Dr. Ray, wouldn't that mean that the other 3 are typical and he's not? Not necessarily. If you have enough kids, you're going to have a kid who pushes, and pushes hard. It's kind of the way it is. Had an email just recently where they said that. We got 5 kids. And this number 4 kid is just giving us more trouble than the other 5 put together. Yeah, I got that. Okay. That one's going to make a parent out of you. That one's going to make you persevere like you never had to persevere. That one's going to make you be much more consistent than you had to be with the other kids because they responded. You sent them to the corner 4 times, they never did it again. This one could eat his lunch in the corner, have a hammock over there as he sleeps over there until he gets it. Okay. That's the kid. Shell shock second child syndrome. They never told me about that when I was in grad school. When I had child development courses. Never told us about that. Because that's the stuff you learn as you do this over and over and over and over again. You begin to see themes. Themes that are pretty obvious with experience. But they wouldn't be obvious coming right out of grad school. They wouldn't. I developed my shell-shock second child syndrome theory probably multiple years into being a therapist. When I started to see this trajectory of our first kid wasn't like this. This kid does all kinds of things our first kid didn't do. We have to be right on top of him or else he'll pull some impulsive stunt. Yeah? Well, Dr. Ray, he's not normal. Can't say that. He's probably more normal than your first one. Because the more cooperative by nature a kid is, I could say he's not normal. In a good sense, an IQ of 140 is not normal either, but you'd like an IQ of 140, wouldn't you? Well, maybe you wouldn't. But at least 120. Shell-shocked second child syndrome. Never taught me that in grad school. Had to hang around a while to learn it. This is Dr. Ray. Thanks for joining me.
Ann Arbor Smiles is a state-of-the-art dental practice led by the talents of Doctors Dan Kennedy, Chris Marzoni, and Stephen Gray. One of their many satisfied patients is Father Deacon Lawrence Hendricks.
I was one of the first patients to receive a CEREC crown from Dr. Kennedy. The CEREC technology allows for restorations to be done in one visit. They always use the most advanced techniques in dentistry. I've always enjoyed the friendly staff and the personal relationships that I have at Ann Arbor Smiles.
Go to AnnArborSmiles.com today.
I don't think we've replaced our siding since we moved in 20 years ago. But I'm sure it's still fine, right?
It's better call Mighty Dog Roofing of Ann Arbor.
Damaged siding can cause mold buildup and weaken your home structure. Protect your family by calling local Catholics Dan and Mary Flanagan at Mighty Dog Roofing for a free inspection of your siding, roof, or windows. Mighty Dog Roofing, 734-224-4916. That's 734-224-4916. The doctor is in Ann Arbor. Don't miss this chance to join Dr. Ray's studio audience for tapings of his hit TV show, Living Right with Dr. Ray.
The live audience makes the show.
The tapings are October 28th and 29th. 2 shows each night at 5:30 and 7:15 p.m. All shows are at Russell Video in Ann Arbor, and the cost is free.
Without the audience, there is no show.
Just sign up at AveMariaRadio.net.
Very much would love to see you.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Are you paying high prices with a traditional health insurance company that pays for things that violate your conscience? There's an alternative available. Solidarity HealthShare is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services, all while saving you money with prices starting as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. Never fund another abortion with your healthcare dollars. Call 844-313-4999 to learn more.
Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. We're in northeastern Ohio right now, and I got to tell you, we've had a week of weather that's about the same as San Diego. Northeastern Ohio, we do not see this much blue sky. And temperatures in the 70s, sometimes in the mid-high 60s. Absolutely spectacular weather. You know what I noticed? This is happening to me. I get up in the morning, and I check the weather app. Because, well, I just want to know if it's going to rain, what the chances are between 2 and 5 o'clock. You know, there's something that happens with age. Start noticing the weather, and you want to see what next week highs are. Why? I don't know. It's happening. My uncles used to do this. I had one uncle who taped the Weather Channel. I guess he's going to reuse it at some point down the road, I suppose, and I thought that was funny. But now I get up and I check the bug. I think that's what it's called. And I find out, did you know the high today is going to be 74? And I feel like I have to tell people this. Like they need to know this. Tonight, boy, you got to watch yourself. Might want to throw a blanket on there. It's going to get down to 52. Yeah. Happening. Let's go to Tammy from Ohio. Her sister killed herself. Yikes. And Tammy's feeling, What could she have done? Did you see it coming with your sister?
No, I didn't. That's why I wanted to call in. She lives in California, and I live in Ohio, and we talked on the phone nearly every day. She was very ill, and she was going through a very bad divorce. She was so ill she couldn't even take care of herself. And I was trying to make arrangements to go out there and move her back to Ohio. And she seemed open to that, but she seemed very depressed, which is why I wanted her to come here. I thought it would really help her, you know, if she was here around family and people that really loved her. And she seemed like she was doing okay, but then I went down to Florida to see my daughter. When I got back, she said, I'm sending everybody a letter, and she said it should be arriving in the next week or so. And I said, are you okay? And she said, yeah. I said, you would never do anything to hurt yourself, would you? I said, we've talked about this, and you told me you loved the Lord. And she goes, no, I wouldn't do anything like that. Well, then I got home from Florida, and I got a call from my niece saying that she took a bottle of pills and killed herself. And so I'm not sure how I didn't see the signs or if I could have done anything different. And now I'm getting, I'm seeing Facebook messages from my nephew, which isn't her son, but her nephew, and his brother was murdered. And his mom, he found his mom dead in her bedroom, and he seemed very depressed. So, there's a lot more to this story, trust me, but I won't get into it. My whole life is a book. So I just want to know, with my nephew posting things on Facebook about men's mental health and you know, men do commit suicide, he's saying things like this, I'm like, I don't want to miss the signs again, and is there anything I can do?
Was your sister terminally ill?
No, she was not terminally ill. She had postpartum psychosis and just very, very depressed over her illness, where she was suffering from severe pain that I couldn't even imagine living with. I mean, we couldn't even talk on the phone without her grunting in pain. And then with a divorce, her husband, very wealthy, was trying to take anything that she could live on, just trying to take everything away from her. And she had a daughter that was brainwashed against her. And so she just had all of the cards were just stacked against her. And so she even said I was her lifeline. But then I had to go down to see my daughter in Florida. There's some things going on down there. And when I got back, that's when I found out that she committed suicide. And so I just want to make sure I don't miss the signs with my nephew or anybody else. I know my dad had depression. I had some depression. So I'm just not sure, you know, what signs I need to look for and what I can do for my nephew or anybody, for that matter, in my family that may be contemplating suicide. I don't want to miss the signs again.
Well, first of all, your sister had a lot of things stacked on her. That was just huge. She's in chronic pain. A lot of people with chronic pain say, look, I can't take this. You said she had postpartum psychosis, which if it was still lingering, makes the decision to kill herself not one where she was in full control of her mental capacity. That's 2. 3, she figures I'm going to be left destitute. All these things were on top of her. She's thinking, my only lifeline is halfway across the continent or more. So, 1, I don't know if you missed the signs. It was, she sounded pretty high risk. Okay, that's first thing. As far as the nephew, holy mackerel, you said he came upon his mother dead, and was it his dad who killed himself?
No, his brother was murdered.
Oh, man. All right, so it could be this kid's thinking, if this is what life is, I don't want any part of it.
Right.
Do you have any relationship with him?
We see each other once a week, and, you know, I always talk about Christ, and and try to encourage him and take him to lunch and, things like that.
That's good stuff.
He just seems so depressed.
All right, that's good stuff. You might want to set it up for him, if he's willing, to talk with somebody and tell him you'll go with him. You'll be there. If he wants you to be in the session, you'll be in the session. If not, you just wait quietly in the waiting room. I have that happen a lot. Sometimes people will bring somebody in, and they'll feel more reassured if their support system is there, even if they're in another room. That's one. I think you can talk with him a little bit about how he sees what he's experienced. I mean, that's a load objectively, but we don't know what he's telling himself to make it even worse. Tammy says, I missed the signs. I touched upon this in the call. I could have chased it further. She didn't miss the signs. There weren't any signs other than the buildup of stress in this poor woman's life. But she denied straight to Tammy that she was going to hurt herself. Said, I'm not doing it. One sign may have been the letter. She could have said, what's in the letter? What are you saying that you sent a letter to everybody? What was that about? That's a factor. I don't recall in the call if this sister had suicidal ideation previously, because the best predictor of an attempt is a previous attempt, and a previous attempt that was serious. In other words, it didn't succeed, but only because of a chance encounter. Someone took a bunch of pills and somebody came home, and before the pills had full effect, they got him to an emergency room. That's serious. Somebody hooks up the tailpipe to their car in a garage, or doesn't even hook it up, just leaves it on. And again, somebody discovers them or somebody calls on the phone. That's a serious attempt. And it was essentially truncated because somebody discovered it. So that is a sign. That I won't say it's a sign. It's an indicator of higher risk. I suspect that with the nephew here, given that he's looking at all this, one big predictor of an unwillingness, even when things get seriously overwhelming, is, believe it or not, religion. People that have a sense of religion. And Tammy said, well, she did, but I would have to wonder a little bit what was happening to it. But a sense of religion is it's a counter force to following through on something like this. The signs that people give off vary. Some people will write letters, some people won't. Some people will talk about it somewhat at length and give off, I don't think life is worth living, I've never felt this way, I'm so depressed, life just really, really stinks, I don't know how much longer I can go on. They'll talk like that. And one of the things that you need to do, I hate to use that kind of language, one of the things you could do is talk with them about how much you care for them, how much you love them, how much their life means to you. That's big. On the other side, I'm going to share with you a little study, and then we'll get to a second look-back call. I'm going to share with you a little study that shows you the power of somebody being aware that they're important. This is Dr. Rick.
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Well, nothing gaining on me. When I say that, nobody gets it. Only show in all of Catholic radio where the broadcast delay is set because of the host. Yeah, there's a 7-second delay before something goes out over the air. And I asked EWTN, I said, is that what my delay is? They said, no, your delay's 3 minutes. 3 minutes. We don't need 3 minutes. The delay is set for you, Raymond. Okay. Before I close up on Tammy's call, whose sister killed herself, I was talking about when you know someone who is talking this way or has made a previous attempt to be involved in some way in their life, or even if it's just context. Tammy said she talked to her sister periodically over the phone or text because she lives in a different state. Remember that's pretty presumptuous of me. In my opening monologue, I said a lot of what I've learned as a psychologist has been self-taught, exploring things on my own, reading and listening to tapes, listening to podcasts. I came across a study some time back that said this. It was a mental health center who had a long list of people that had come to the mental health center but had long since ceased coming. So they sent out letters to a group of them, not all of them, but a group of them, saying, we're hoping your life is going well. We appreciate that you came in and talked. We wish you well. You know, some kind of upbeat letter that simply says, we care about how you're doing. Now, this, as far as I know, was not replicated because there could be other factors involved, just even random factors involved. However, what they said was, and I don't know how they followed up on this, I don't remember the details of the study, the percentage of people who killed themselves was far lower among those who got so much as a letter from the mental health center compared to those who simply had stopped coming and didn't get a letter. And the point they were making was there seemed to be something in that letter that conveyed the message, I care about you and I care about what's going on in your life. Simple contact via letter. All right. Oh boy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to play this and then comment on it afterward. We have an anonymous caller, it's a male, whose Catholic son is marrying someone of another faith tradition outside of the church.
I've got a 20-something son, very strong-willed, walked away from his Catholic upbringing when he finished up high school, and is now engaged to a really sweet, lovely Protestant girl that we really like. And about a year or two ago, he started to visibly pray again when they would be over to our house, and he seemed like he wanted to get closer to his faith again. And he's engaged, and they're not getting married till next year. But he came in and informed us that he's getting married in a Protestant church. And so I have been dropping him hints. I've been giving him things to read, little things to look at, harping on the true validity of the Catholic faith. But now that he's said, they got a date set with a Protestant church for next year, and I am just really mad at him. I know I can't come and yell at him because, again, he's strong-willed, and I know it, and I got to treat the whole situation with kid gloves. And if I show him anger, he will just double down and get super angry at me and such. But I just don't know what to do.
Okay, you said you were mad. You're going to have to subdue that. You're going to probably do very well to say, I'm very pleased you've got a good Christian girl. This is wonderful. I'm going to love you and support you in this marriage because you have no choice. He flat out has told you, look, I don't want to do this. So the one really good thing is he is dating a Christian girl who it sounds like has gotten him to reconsider this Christian thing. Is that true?
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly say that he's ever really denied the Christian. I mean, I've asked him before, and he said, "Oh no, I still consider myself Catholic, but not practicing." You know, or I say, but not practicing. But he said, you know, he said that within the last year, so he's never really given it up. But you know, as far as taking much action out of it or anything like that, he hasn't. And now, you know, since they picked a date with this Protestant church now, I think he's attending the Protestant church half the time with her, you know, when it's convenient. So,
well, Dad, you got to back off. You got to back off. You got to accept her. You got to accept the relationship. You can't let them know I totally disapprove, and you know at the very least I'll be cool toward this. I'll be civilized. I'll be semi-pleasant. No, you can't do that. You got to basically be warm toward them. And if your son interprets that to mean, see, my dad is perfectly fine with me leaving the Catholic faith, that's his misinterpretation. He knows that you would rather not it be this way. He knows that. You've made your case enough. Plus, you raised him. So you don't give him a wrong message by saying, all right, I'm going to just love you and your girl. Regarding attending the marriage, get some priestly guidance on this. I've seen priests come down on both sides. On one side, they'll say, no, you just flat out don't do it because you're witnessing a marriage that a person says he's Catholic, but is in fact not marrying according to the Catholic teaching. On the other hand, I've heard priests say, well, you got to watch how much damage you could possibly do to this relationship. Third thing, too, and I don't think he'll do this, but he can formally relinquish his Catholic faith, and if he does that, then he can have a valid marriage within another church. But at this point, I think it really comes down to you weighing how much damage will be done. Will you basically lose contact or any kind of decent will with your son and this girl if you say, I can't go? There's no way. You still say you're Catholic, or you still have one foot in the Catholic Church, but you're turning around and saying, I'm going to get married there because that's where she wants to get married. Typically in these cases, sir, what happens is when you have different religious traditions, the one with the more potent religious tradition is the one who rules. So it sounds like she's more Protestant than he is Catholic. My turn, Andrew. I'll take it to break. After the break, I can add a few thoughts. Okay. Had an anonymous dad call in his son, whom he described as strong-willed, and that is usually a code word for saying, yeah, this kid has always kind of gone his own way, and we've had a hard time kind of guiding him. Well, the son, I guess, is in his early 20s, and he has gotten lazy with the Catholic faith. On one hand, he says, I'm still Catholic, which is accurate because he was baptized Catholic. But on the other hand, he's decided at this point in his life to sort of drift along. Well, he married a girl, and the girl seems to be more into her faith, which is, and the dad just said she was Protestant faith, so we don't know exactly whether it was evangelical or a mainline, whatever it might be. She's more into it than he is his, and so he is moving along with her expression of the faith. And as I pointed out, while the music was stomping on me, which we used to say, we used to say when I used to play in a band, if you're singing and you got the accompaniment stomping on you because they're louder than you are, that's not good. Well, the music was stomping on me because I was making the point that typically in a relationship of mixed faith, the person who is stronger in their faith is the one who guides the faithfulness of the marriage. And in this case, sounds like it's the girl. Now, the good news is the son is rekindling some of his Christian embrace. That's good. That's good, because if you look at it, and I've heard Pat Madrid talk about this, for many people, their Catholic faith, only comes alive as a Christian faith when they're somewhere else. Too bad it has to be that way, but oftentimes that is the way it is. That happened with me. When I left the church, went into the evangelical world, I became very, very, very involved, Bible studies, all kinds of things, and that was my problem, but it brought me back to the church ultimately. So that said, it could be bringing this young man back. Now, I said that you really got to welcome this warm relationship. You can't look at it, and Dad was saying, I'm so mad. You can't look at the relationship as though this is such a dissatisfactory turn in my life. You can't do that. You do that, and what will happen is they'll retreat from you. They'll pull back. They'll know how you're viewing it, and they'll just simply say, well, you know, my dad is just disapproving and stubborn about this whole thing, so the less we see of my dad, the better. To love is not to condone. If you're very warm toward the girl, very warm toward your son, that doesn't mean you're condoning the way this relationship has gone for your son. You're loving. Our Lord ate with tax collectors and sinners. He was associating with them in a deep fellowship. I'm sure he wasn't condoning what they do. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, Dad said, I've been giving him a lot of stuff. Okay. Decide when to stop giving him a lot of stuff, depending upon his reaction to it. This could be fertile ground, and I've seen this happen, I'm sure many of you have, where a Catholic person in a relationship with somebody who's non-Catholic but still religious has started to look back at their Catholic roots and seen the logic and the beauty and the evidence of it, and in a percentage of the cases, the non-Catholic comes into the church. So at this point, it may be that after they're married, the son may have some kind of rekindling of his youthful faith, or he may ask Dad questions about it, come across somebody, maybe even listen to Catholic media. And as he becomes more embracing of his faith, he may, in fact, influence her. When I started coming back to my Catholic faith, I was in my 30s. My wife was not Catholic, she was evangelical. What I did was I went to 7:30 Mass at a local parish, and then we went to 9 o'clock service. I didn't receive communion at her service, at her evangelical parish, and I attended their evangelical Bible study. And I very subtly raised Catholic questions, even though the folks in there didn't know enough about the Catholic Church to know these were Catholic questions. And we had a lot of anti-Catholics in there because they had once been Catholics, and in their mind they escaped the Catholic Church and found real Christianity. Okay, well, they didn't even know enough about what they left to know that some of the questions I was asking smelled very Catholic. We were doing the Gospel of John. Ha! What a perfect context to ask those kinds of questions. So Dad's looking to the future here. He's playing to the future. If the son says, I'm still Catholic, but he's going along with the fiancé, we don't know how resistant she would be. A very close relative of mine got married outside the church, and his fiancée and her parents, the mom was once Catholic, but they had since left the church, and the fiancé was raised in another tradition, and my very close relative got their marriage blessed at one point as he came back to the Catholic Church, as he started to look at it more closely and saw the beauty of it, the sense that it made, the cohesiveness of it, the historical reliability of it. And he started coming back to the church, which prompted her to start asking questions. And now both of her parents are back in the church, and they have been for some years now. So that kind of stuff happens. So if Dad is going to cling to his anger about this, it's pretty possible that they'll just resist even any kind of openness towards the Catholic faith. Thank you for joining me, Dr. Ray.
We'll return after these messages.
Today's programming on 990 WDEO is brought to you in part by a gift from our day sponsor, St. Catherine of Siena. She's not just our patron, she's our hero. What can she teach us today? Resilience, determination, and compassion. At St. Catherine Academy, we're following her lead, rising to challenges, protecting and inspiring others. We may not leave tall buildings, but we embody Christ's love. Discover how your daughter can become a modern-day hero. Visit us at our open house on Sunday, September 28th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and be a part of something truly extraordinary.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
Remember to take a minute this week to thank a priest you know for all the blessings he shares through his vocation. Let us encourage them and express our gratitude for all of their sacrifices. Saying something like, "Thank you for baptizing our children." Nominate your priest at thankyouforyourpriesthood.com. A new contest every month through September 2025, brought to you by Diocesan, your Catholic advertising and communications company.
Underwritten in part by this not-for-profit.
Hi, this is Mike Ditkin.
Hey, this is Brian May.
Hi, I'm Chris Farley. You're listening to the Kevin Matthews Show.
I thought he was insane. A lot of people thought he was insane.
Nobody could touch us. We had 10 million people listening to us a week.
But that was my past. If you would have told me I'd be carrying around a broken statue of the Virgin Mary, talking about God, I'd say, are you high?
Broken Mary, the Kevin Matthews story. In theaters one day only on Tuesday, October 7th. Tickets at brokenmaryfilm.com.
All right, better get to it. I've only got about 6 or 7 minutes left, and I want to get this call in. Monica from Ohio is devastated. She found out her husband has been watching porn. All right, honey, how did you discover this?
It was a series of technological coincidences. My son had an Apple Watch, and it was paired with my husband's phone. So my son saw something and told me, and then I asked my husband, and yeah. Oh, and I figured out on the internet what happened, and then he said that's what happened. But yeah, what I mostly, he is doing everything that I asked of him, and he's treating me really well. I mean, he always treated me really well, so that's no different. But I'm still really angry, and I almost don't even want to be in the same room with him, and it's been 8 months. So I just wondered if you had any insight into, am I getting some personal gain from this, or am I just still so upset? Because I would think after 8 months of him being really nice and doing everything that he needs to do, I should be happy again. So I'm just wondering what's wrong with me. You've seen this before, and what...
I'm a little offended here,
what am I
Monica.
doing wrong?
I'm a little offended. I have to tell you, and I want to make this about me, but I'm a little offended. You said, I was wondering if you had any insight. That means you had some doubts whether I would or not. Now, I'm going to let that slide. Okay?
Okay.
I'm going to let it slide. Don't let it happen again.
Okay.
First of all, I know there's a boatload of women listening right now that would say, of course, no doubt. Guys don't realize what this would do to their wives. It would send in motion a cascade of feelings.
Yes.
I thought I knew this guy. I thought I knew this guy. That's one.
Yes. Yes.
Two. Well, when we're together, what's he thinking? Who's he thinking? What's he want? That's 2. 3, I don't know if I can trust him again. Happened once, could happen again. I have no way of knowing. Maybe he'll just get a little more sly about the whole thing. So those feelings are common ones that percolate. Have they percolated for you?
Well, they have, and I thought, again, it's been 8 months, and he is demonstrating that he is, as far as I know, and I am choosing to trust him, that he realizes it was bad, and he's trying to be really nice. So that's what I don't understand. I went through all the things you're thinking about, or that you just said, but I still am so upset about it, and that's what I don't understand. He's doing what he needs to do, so what's wrong with me?
Okay, are you sure he's doing what he needs to do? In other words,
right.
Can you be 100% sure? I think this is what you would need to have to say, okay, that was past, that was a sin, he recognizes it's a sin, he's remorseful, he's contrite, and he is absolutely determined this is never going to happen again. Now, if you were 100% convinced of that, I think it would be easier for you to get over this. Are you 100% convinced?
Well, as convinced as I could be. Like you said, he could be doing things slyly, but again, I have checked I've done everything, and, as far as I can tell, I have no doubts that, and again, he could be doing things and I don't know, but I would say that's, a low chance. I feel like he is really remorseful, and he realizes how upset I am. And so that's why I don't understand what is wrong with me that I can't, realize.
Well,
I feel like it was just yesterday, and it's been 8 months. And so what's wrong with me?
Well, I'm not sure anything's wrong with you. I think, one, you're underestimating the sense of betrayal that you had.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 1. 2, at some point to get over this, you're going to have to start acting against your feelings.
Okay.
Your feelings are, I'm still upset, I'm still betrayed, I feel demeaned, all of this. I feel that I was trustworthy with him when I shouldn't have been. All those feelings, if you will, if you want to call them that. They're really thoughts, but they're feelings. Mm-hmm. So you need to start acting toward him more kindly, more warm, more accepting.
Well, I am treating him so, really well. I don't think he even knows I feel this way. It's like at night I go downstairs because I can't stand being in the same room with him. That kind of a thing. No, I'm
okay,
really
well
nice.
Then, all right, hold on a second.
Laundry.
Stop.
Okay.
You just said you ain't doing it.
No, it's on my mind.
Right. He doesn't know it. Of course he knows it. You get up and you leave him.
Oh, he's asleep.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as he's asleep. But given that, I would suggest you stay there.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is, well, I don't want to be with him. I don't want to be here. I don't feel like being with him. I'm getting up.
Right.
And what you're doing is you're continuing to act on those feelings that continue to torment you. I want to talk to the guys. I know why I picked this one. I want to talk to the guys. 2 things. 1, you don't realize this is not a victimless crime. I've heard people say that. Pornography is just a victimless crime. Not by any stretch of the imagination at so many levels. But in a marriage, you don't realize what the discovery of that can do to your wife. Along so many levels. That's 1. But here's, I think, the point I want to make. Some guys will say, how long is she going to keep punishing me? Now, Monica says, I'm not punishing him. Well, yes and no. If she has these feelings that are this strong still, it's got to come out. Somehow, some way, he's got to sense it. And she'll say, no, I'm covering up really good. Well, he wakes up and he finds out you're not there. So it's hard for me to believe that there isn't some sensing of this. That aside, if, guys, your wife is making it very clear she's taken a long time to get over this, do not take the mindset, how long are you going to punish me? I said I'm sorry. I said I'm not going to do it again. understand the damage you did and that you are going to have to live with the fallout until that woman gets to the point where she feels you are trustworthy again and she's had enough counterbalance in the purity of your marriage to leave that in the past. But all so often, I've heard guys say, this is, how long is it going to go on? I said I'm sorry. I said I'm not going to do it again. Don't underestimate the effect it can have. So if you're into this, you better ponder that. Gotta go. Thanks for joining me here. Your walk with God is always. Keep walking.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.